Shedeur Sanders. You clearly are not sold on him right now. You're not sold on the progress that he's making, even though you're saying, hey, we're happy with where he's at.
I'm going to be livid if it goes down, by the way.
But let me just explain my thought process.
Let's get through it.
And this is I want to be very clear, this is just my thought process here.
All right.
Okay? I'm not saying this is going to happen.
And I'll tell you this much here, what I heard from someone that's in the NFL, that the NFL told other, don't draft him. Do not draft him. We're gonna make an example out of him. And this came from a very good source. And he said that, I won't say who, somebody called the Cleveland Browns and said, don't do that. Draft
Really?
him. Yep, draft him. Don't do that. Because they weren't gonna draft him either. They weren't gonna draft him.
Your thought?
Browns fans, what I'm about to tell you might just break your heart and shatter every dream you had for this season. Jimmy Haslam and the Browns front office are reportedly considering the most insane move that could destroy this franchise's future forever, and it involves trading away the one player that actually gives us hope. The conspiracy against Shedeur Sanders runs deeper than anyone imagined. An NFL legend, Eric Dickerson, just dropped a bombshell that changes everything we thought we knew about the 2025 draft. This isn't just about football anymore. This is about a systematic effort to destroy a young man's career, and the Browns might be playing right into their hands.
Nope. Like, Shedeur's the only one that's really playing for something in my estimation, because if he doesn't look good, then all of a sudden people are like, oh, so he's inconsistent. He can't do it. He can't even do it against third and fourth stringers. The Browns were right the entire time, which I think is ridiculous, but it's going to be the take.
Right.
And if he's great, then guess what? Congratulations. You
100%.
still get to be third on the depth chart or fourth in the depth chart, whatever you are.
Nothing moves.
Nothing moves.
Look, I've been covering this team for years, and I thought I'd seen every possible way the Browns could break our hearts. But this is next-level betrayal, and it's happening right under our noses while we're all distracted by depth chart discussions and preseason games. Let me paint you the picture of what's really going on in Berea right now. We've got insiders whispering about trade scenarios. We've got NFL legends dropping conspiracy theories. And we've got an organization that might be about to make the single dumbest decision in franchise history. Again, you know that feeling. When you finally find something to be excited about with this team. When you see a young quarterback who's got that it factor, who handles pressure like a veteran, who makes throws that leave you saying, damn, this kid might actually be special. That's what we all felt watching Shedeur Sanders in that first preseason game. That drive where he came back from a rough start and showed real composure. That wasn't luck, that was skill. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. And this is where you need to pay attention, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see this entire situation.
Legendary running back went on a radio show, and he pretty much said that he got word and when that teams was informed not to draft Shedeur. Now, Dan Patrick, right? I know y'all wonder why is Dan Patrick pulled up? Because Dan Patrick just released it on his big time show. Guys, listen to this. This is very, very disturbing.
Eric Dickerson was on a radio show, Fred Rogan and Rodney Peete on AM 570, and had this to say about Shedeur Sanders.
And I'll tell you this much here, what I heard from someone that's in the NFL, that the NFL told other, don't draft him. Do not draft him. We're gonna make an example out of him. And this came from a very good source. And he said that, I won't say who, somebody called the Cleveland Browns and said, don't do that. Draft
Really?
him. Yep, draft him. Don't do that. Because they weren't gonna draft him either. They weren't gonna draft him.
Eric Dickerson, Hall of Fame legend, not some random talking head, went on the Rogan and Rodney show and dropped an absolute nuclear bomb. He claims that someone in the NFL told teams, quote, don't draft him. Do not draft him. We're going to make an example out of him. We're talking about a systematic conspiracy to keep Shedeur Sanders out of the first round, possibly out of the NFL entirely. Think about that for a second. Eric Dickerson claims the NFL conspired to prevent Cleveland Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders from being drafted early in the 2025 NFL Draft, alleging the league made an example of Sanders who fell from potential first-round status to a day 3 selection. Now, Some people are saying this is just conspiracy theory nonsense. But let me ask you something. Does it really sound that crazy when you look at what actually happened? A quarterback who was projected by many to go in the first round suddenly falls all the way to the fifth. A kid with elite arm talent, leadership skills, and championship experience gets passed over by 31 teams. But here's the kicker, and this is where the Browns come in. According to Dickerson's source, after telling everyone else not to draft Shedeur, someone allegedly called the Browns and said, "Draft him." Like they were being used as the designated landing spot for this whole orchestrated mess. And that brings us to the real problem. Jimmy Haslam. Now, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam told reporters on Tuesday that he was not directly responsible for Cleveland's decision to draft Shedeur Sanders. And Haslam quickly dismissed those claims, attributing the decision to GM Andrew Berry. But come on, we all know how Jimmy operates. This is the same guy who forced the Deshaun Watson trade. And now he's trying to distance himself from the Shedeur pick. Here's what really scares me about all this. We've got reports suggesting that Kevin Stefanski and Browns front office unhappy with Jimmy Haslam's role in Shedeur Sanders' draft. And that's never a good sign when your owner and coaching staff aren't on the same page about your future quarterback. But the absolute worst part? The trade rumors are already starting to swirl.
If they don't seem like they're in a hurry to play him this year. Okay?
Yeah,
which goes counterintuitive to what needs to happen this year.
Right, you got to play these guys.
Right.
It was Jimmy Haslam's declaration himself, was you got to play the rookie quarterbacks. And he's like, Stefanski knows you got to play the rookie quarterbacks. All right, so in this theory of yours, are you suggesting that we get to a spot where they can't play him this year because they're going to go Flacco into Dylan Gabriel, so they realize he's not going to get an opportunity, and then they also realize they're likely drafting a quarterback in the 2026 draft?
Yep.
And so basically the runway is just empty and you're out of room when it comes to Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. How can you make an
Listen to this insider analysis from Cleveland radio. They're saying the Browns clearly are not sold on him right now and aren't sold on the progress he's making. Even though publicly they're saying they're happy with where he's at, behind closed doors, it's a different story. And here's the most damaging part of this whole situation. The Cleveland Browns have a surplus of quarterbacks following their anticlimactic positional battle. Could they trade fifth-round pick Shedeur Sanders? We're seeing reports about Cleveland Browns rookie QB Shedeur Sanders might be headed to another team in the NFL as trade rumors flare up post-QB1 announcement. Think about the timeline here. Joe Flacco gets the starting job. Fine, he's the veteran. But then Dylan Gabriel gets named the second-string quarterback over Shedeur? That's when you know something's seriously wrong with this organization's evaluation process. Let me tell you why this is the most Browns thing ever. They draft a quarterback in the fifth round who, by all accounts, has the talent of a much higher pick. He shows flashes of brilliance in limited opportunities. The fans actually get excited about something for once. And then what does this organization do? They start shopping him around like he's damaged goods. The radio guys in Cleveland are floating theories about keeping 4 quarterbacks or trading Kenny Pickett, but the nuclear option they mentioned should terrify every Browns fan trading Shedeur for a 3rd or 4th round pick. Can you imagine? Taking a kid who could be your franchise quarterback and flipping him for draft capital that statistically won't amount to anything. And here's what makes this even more infuriating. Shedeur Sanders to play in Browns' preseason finale says he doesn't care where he sits in QB pecking order, and Shedeur Sanders shared his reaction to losing the starting job to Joe Flacco and being named a backup to the Browns. The kid is handling this situation with more class and professionalism than the organization deserves. But let's talk about what we actually saw on the field, because that's what really matters, right? In that first preseason game, Shedeur showed something that you can't teach. After a rocky start, he settled in and started making throws that had scouts and analysts taking notice. He's got that quick release, he reads defenses well, and most importantly, he doesn't get rattled under pressure. Compare that to Dylan Gabriel, who turned the ball over twice in Philadelphia while Shedeur threw 2 touchdowns. But somehow Dylan still gets the nod as the backup? How does that make any sense unless there's something else going on behind the scenes? Here's what I think is really happening, and this is where the conspiracy theory starts to make sense. The NFL establishment doesn't like the Sanders family. They don't like Deion's outspoken nature. They don't like the attention and media circus that follows them. And they especially don't like the idea of a young black quarterback who comes from football royalty having too much leverage. So what do? They orchestrate a draft fall that damages his perceived value. Then they manipulate the situation so he ends up with an organization that's historically bad at developing quarterbacks. It's the perfect setup for failure. And Jimmy Haslam? He's playing right into their hands. Instead of recognizing that he might have stumbled into a franchise-changing talent, he's already looking for ways to get rid of the one player that gives this fan base hope. Let me paint you another picture. What if, and hear me out on this, what if the Browns actually developed Shedeur Sanders properly? What if they gave him real reps with the first team? What if they designed an offense around his strengths? What if they treated him like the potential franchise quarterback he could be? You know what would happen? This organization might actually be competitive for the first time in decades. They might actually have something to build around. The fans might actually have a reason to believe. But that's not the Cleveland way, is it? Instead, we're going to watch them trade away a potential superstar for pennies on the dollar, just like they've done with countless other talented players over the years. And here's the part that should make every Browns fan absolutely furious. Cleveland has no clear starter for 2025 or beyond, giving Sanders an opportunity he may not have had with another team. If the Browns can turn a fifth-round pick into a franchise quarterback, they'll have cleared a major hurdle in recovering from the disastrous Deshaun Watson trade. They have the perfect opportunity to turn this disaster of a franchise around. And instead of embracing it, they're looking for ways to screw it up. Again, the Deshaun Watson trade already cost them 3 first-round picks and $230 million guaranteed. Now they're going to compound that mistake by trading away the one quarterback who might actually be worth developing. Let's talk about what this means for the fan base, because that's really what this is about. For months, Shedeur Sanders has been the one bright spot in an otherwise depressing Browns landscape. He's been the reason to tune into preseason games, the reason to actually feel some optimism about the future. And if they trade him, that's it. That's the final straw for a lot of people. How do you ask fans to keep investing their time, money, and emotional energy into a franchise that consistently makes the worst possible decisions? Here's what really gets me fired up about this whole situation. The kid has done everything right. He's been professional, he's worked hard, he's shown flashes of elite talent, and he's handled this circus of a situation with incredible maturity. And how does the organization repay him? By shopping him around like he's some kind of problem they need to solve. Meanwhile, they're committed to Joe Flacco, a 40-year-old quarterback who's clearly on his last legs, and Dillon Gabriel, who frankly looked lost against NFL-caliber competition. But Shedeur, the guy with the highest ceiling and the most potential, he's the one they want to get rid of. It's backwards. It's stupid. It's infuriating. And it's exactly what we should expect from this organization. But here's where this story gets even wilder. According to that radio discussion, they're worried about not having enough time to properly evaluate Shedeur during the regular season. The plan seems to be giving Joe Flacco 4 to 6 weeks, then maybe trying Kenny Pickett, then giving Dillon Gabriel a shot in November or December. That'd be why that timeline. Shedeur might get the regular season finale against Cincinnati. One game. That's what they want to use to determine whether a fifth-round pick who fell due to an alleged conspiracy can play at the NFL level. That's not evaluation, that's sabotage. And speaking of sabotage, let's talk about how they've handled his development so far. According to the insiders, they didn't want to give him reps in training camp because they didn't feel he was ready. His work has been limited to before practice sessions and something they call the Hungry Dogs opportunity period. How is a rookie quarterback supposed to develop when he's not getting meaningful reps with the team? How is he supposed to build chemistry with receivers when he's relegated to scout teamwork? It's almost like they're setting him up to fail so they can justify trading him later. But here's what gives me hope, and this is why I think Browns fans need to fight back against this potential trade. Every media person who's interacted with Shedeur has had nothing but positive things to say. He's described as all-class, someone who epitomizes everything you want in a football player. This isn't some diva quarterback with character issues. This isn't someone who's going to be a distraction in the locker room. This is a young man who's been raised in football excellence, who understands what it takes to win at the highest level. And that's exactly why the establishment wants to see him fail. Because if Shedeur Sanders succeeds, it proves that the old ways of thinking about quarterback evaluation are wrong. It proves that talent and character matter more than manufactured Controversy. The Eric Dickerson revelations add a whole new layer to this story. If there really was a coordinated effort to keep Shedeur out of the first round, if teams really were told not to draft him, then what we're looking at isn't just bad team management. It's a systematic attack on a young man's career, and the Browns might be the unwitting accomplices in this scheme. They draft him in the 5th round, probably thinking they're getting incredible value. But instead of capitalizing on that value, they're looking to flip him for whatever they can get. That it's like finding a diamond in the rough and then selling it to a pawn shop because you don't recognize what you have. That here's what should happen and what Browns fans should be demanding. Give Shedeur Sanders a real opportunity. Not garbage time in meaningless games. Not limited reps with the scout team. A real chance to show what he can do with NFL-caliber talent around him. Stop this ridiculous depth chart nonsense where Dylan Gabriel somehow leaps over him despite worse performance. Stop the trade rumors. Stop undermining the confidence of a young quarterback who could be the future of this franchise. Because here's the truth that nobody in that organization wants to admit. Shedeur Sanders might be the most talented quarterback they've had since they came back in 1999. He might be the guy who finally breaks this cycle of quarterback mediocrity that's plagued this franchise for decades, but only if they're smart enough to recognize what they have. And based on their track record, that's a big if. The conspiracy theory stuff adds another wrinkle to this whole mess. If Eric Dickerson is right, if there really was a coordinated effort to damage Shedeur's draft stock, then the Browns have a chance to be the team that proves everyone wrong. They could be the organization that recognizes talent when others refuse to see it. Instead, they're talking about trading him away for scraps. It's the most Cleveland Browns thing imaginable. Stumbling into a potential franchise-altering talent, and then immediately looking for ways to get rid of him. But here's what gives me a little bit of hope. The fan reaction to these trade rumors has been overwhelmingly negative. People are fired up about the possibility of losing Shedeur. They're invested in his success in a way that this fan base hasn't been invested in a quarterback in years. That matters. Fan pressure works with this organization, especially when it comes to Jimmy Haslam. He hates being the villain. And if enough people make noise about keeping Shedeur, it might actually influence the decision-making process. So here's what I need from every Browns fan watching this video. Make your voice heard. Get on social media. Call the radio shows. Let this organization know that trading Shedeur Sanders would be the final straw. Let them know that we see through this nonsense and we're not going to stand for it. Because if we don't fight for this kid now, who's going to fight for him? If we let them trade away our future for a 3rd-round pick, what does that say about us as a fan base? Shedeur Sanders deserves better than this organization has given him so far. But more importantly, we as fans deserve better than watching another potential superstar get shipped out of town because our front office can't recognize talent when it's staring them in the face. The conspiracy might be real. The trade rumors definitely are. But the outcome? That's still up to us. What do you think about these trade rumors? Are you as fired up as I am about the possibility of losing Shedeur? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button. If you want to see this organization do right by our rookie quarterback, and make sure you subscribe because this story is far from over. The preseason finale could be make or break for Shedeur's future in Cleveland, and we'll be covering every single development. Don't let them make this mistake, Browns fans. Our future might depend on it.